Breaking today, King Charles makes a monumental mistake by giving Prince Harry the audience with Meghan, Archie, and Lily that they have been so desperate for, but not all is as it seems. And by the way, if anyone thinks that this man is the future of the British royal family, as he goes from his meeting with the king to doing goat yoga and making crap jokes and boasting about the fact that he still thinks he's the Duke of Sussex on an awful new podcast. If anyone thinks that is the future with Meghan and the kids shrouded in secrecy, let me tell you they are wrong. Because this weekend, we saw in the most perfectly illustrated manner why it's William and Catherine and their children, especially George and Charlotte, who are the real future of the British monarchy, as the couple showed their love at the polo, and then the family put on an amazing performance at Wimbledon. So this is what happened just after we went off air on Friday night UK time.
Let's bring you some other breaking news now. It's understood the King and Queen have hosted the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet at Highgrove House today. Before today, the Duke of Sussex had only seen his father once in the last 2.5 years. The King and Queen hosted them at Highgrove in Gloucestershire. It had been unclear if Meghan and the children would join Harry on his visit to the UK.
And that is the reason why Prince Harry was like the cat who got the cream on this awful new podcast with Joe Marler.
Full name?
Henry Charles Albert David, Duke of Sussex.
It's a long one.
Yeah. All right, Jake.
Now, of course, this isn't a man who should be laughing along with anyone. He has just been completely shamed and exposed as a liar by a top British judge, who he then accused of being part of some type of conspiracy, meaning that even the establishment Times newspaper is calling for him to be stripped of his role as a counsellor of state. But Harry, I believe, is now a 42-year-old embarrassment. I mean, making jokes about your private bits, do we really need to go there? Or as that one put it, pretending to have balls.
Okay, everybody put it now.
No, mate, we just look at you. We look at you now and we cringe. We cringe hard.
It's a totally normal thing to be doing.
So this is our goat yoga practice,
I can tell. Yeah.
where we are essentially trying to channel the energy of the goat and envisage the mountains yourself. I want us to look at a goat and say, "Thank you, goat," and come see it. Does anybody here know any fun facts about goats? Close as you can into the eyes of the goats around you.
Maybe a few years ago we would have thought that type of shtick was cute, but now we see Harry for what he really is. But as I say, there are a lot of people saying that this meeting isn't disastrous because in some ways it was Prince Harry and Meghan Markle having to kiss the ring. I mean, look at this picture tracked down from Prince William's jaw. I did quite like that because, of course, there would have been a part of Camilla who was there to listen in, to make sure no lies were told, and to make it clear whose terrain these two were now on. Of course, I believe the real visit is because of Althorpe and because of the need for them to secure footage and stories involving the two children ahead of this documentary for the 30th anniversary of Princess Diana's death next year. We do believe that over the weekend, Archie, Lily, Meghan, and Harry were all at Althorpe. The Sun reported Prince Harry was seen leaving the ancestral home on his own. He was driven from Althorpe to the final leg of his UK visit. Sources told The Sun that no details will be leaked about the private family gathering and no photos will be released. Time will tell. Okay, time will tell, because we don't believe a word you say after the last 6 years, to be honest. But trust me, stuff is going to be leaked from this meeting. It might just not come until the documentary next year. Interestingly, Charlotte Griffiths, who has now admitted that Prince Harry's team were leaking too directly, did have information inside this reunion. An observer said Harry turned up at Invictus with a massive smile plastered all over his face. Everybody was looking absolutely delighted. It wasn't just acting. Liam Maguire, his UK aide, looked absolutely like the cat that had got the cream as well. Then rumours started to go around that they were going to Highgrove this weekend. The Sussexes are believed to be staying at Althorpe. And Harry and Meghan have spoken about their wish to introduce their children to their British roots. During his visit to Warwickshire, Harry said, "I love being here. This is the highlight of my month." Actually, probably the last few months. It's very easy to sit in your grief, to sit in your stress. But guys, if you were feeling it, to share it. So Harry admitting in public that not all is good with his mental health at the moment, which I guess we knew. Of course, there are two sides of this debate in terms of who comes out of this meeting worse. Peter Ford writing, "It is confusing because Meghan will not accept an apology from her own ailing father for one indiscretion, but is willing to go crawling back to the royal family that she said was racist and gave her suicidal ideation. Now, why would that be?" But Lady Colin Campbell very much on Charles's side here, saying that the meeting was brief and all is not it appears to be. She writes, "First of all, tea is the perfect occasion to keep people at arm's length while the civilities are maintained. Secondly, Charles is determined to avoid having Harry leech off him financially. Had the meeting not taken place, the chances are that Harry would have been more motivated and feeling justified in coming to his father cap in hand to rescue him as the debts pile up along with the unsold stock from Was Never. This way, the financial geniuses that are Harry and Meghan can now scurry back to the US and try to convert the royal stardust, with which they hope the visit will cover them into the filthy liquor upon which her sights have always been fixed." She went on to say, "Suffice it is to say that Charles is not quite the pushover that some people seem to think he is, nor is all forgotten, nor will it ever be. Harry and Meghan will never live down their treachery or the lies they told about Charles and Camilla. And that's before we get to their violation of William and Catherine." Tom Sykes of The Royalist had a completely different take, though, saying that Harry and Meghan just won and that Charles will rue the day that he gave in by granting them an audience. He added the palace machine will wrap this in the language of grandfatherly tenderness, but this was a capitulation, a total unconditional capitulation. And I'm afraid it exposes a fatal flaw in Charles that is the flip side of his cultured, artistic, and humane nature. He is a soft touch. It also, and this needs saying plainly as well, a humiliation for the Prince of Wales. William has set his face against exactly this. His camp's response has been a consistent and unambiguous wall of silence. He believes his brother and sister-in-law are manipulators who should be given nothing. His father has now overruled him in the most public way imaginable and done it while William is the one carrying an ever-growing share of the actual work of and support for the monarchy. Charles's first duty is not to the spare. Interestingly, though, Rob Shooter of Shooter Scoop says Meghan didn't actually get exactly what she wanted because the Duchess, or the fake Duchess, actually hoped that it was all going to be about securing an image. An insider telling him that a photograph was the real prize. Meghan understands the power of imagery better than almost anyone. A single picture with the king would have reminded the world that she and Harry are still royalty. That's branding gold. The Sussexes have painfully discovered that none of their post-royal ventures have carried the prestige or global attention that comes with a visible connection to the monarchy. This wasn't about family, the insider says. It was about access. Royal association remains their most valuable asset. A smiling photograph with the king would have instantly reset the narrative, reinforced their status, and reminded everyone that they still belong in the royal conversation. Sources say Buckingham Palace understood exactly what the Sussexes hoped to achieve and declined to hand them the moment. So, a huge amount going on. Let's team up now with Brittany, who is editor of the Royal News Network. So, Brittany, you can look at this meeting and say, well, Meghan maybe didn't get everything. But I'm going to be honest with you, Brittany, I still have massive concerns because remember, this is a long-term project that Harry is working towards. And this is the one-year countdown to Invictus. And what Harry wants and what Harry believes he has now secured, I hope and pray it doesn't happen, is that King Charles shows up in 1 year's time and probably shows up with Meghan and the two children too. And that's when the photo comes. So sure, Meghan didn't get it this time, but they are on the road there.
They definitely are, Dan, because we did get information in the Times that the kids maybe were going to be at some of the public-facing events here. So Harry and Meghan's claims about privacy for their children, of course, we all knew it was complete hogwash, but now we have even more confirmation that Harry and Meghan are fully willing to utilize their children in order to help maintain their public profiles. But this whole thing has been sort of a mess, and it's unclear what anybody in some ways was going to get out of this or what this will look like in the future, because of course we understand that Charles wants to see his grandchildren. Maybe he thinks he wants to have a relationship with his son, but what does this mean for the monarchy? I think that's still a little bit unclear where Harry and Meghan stand, because they are allowed to do this cosplay royal routine with impunity, and it is damaging the monarchy. It's confusing people, and Charles here, I feel like, has added to the confusion by meeting with Harry and Meghan and not making them capitulate to him, especially with a somewhat public apology about their deplorable behavior over the years.
Not even close to an apology, Brittany. I mean, think about what Prince Harry was doing earlier in the week. Slamming Charles's judiciary. He intended to do it from Buckingham Palace. I mean, look, unfortunately, Charles has shown, the King has shown, and I understand what Lady Colin Campbell has said, I understand what Rob Shooter is reporting, but fundamentally, Brittany, this is still a fundamental weakness. I mean, you didn't see the Duke of Windsor and Wallace Simpson returning on the regular to the United Kingdom, and they weren't slagging off the monarchy and suggesting that the monarchy was racist and that the whole thing should potentially be brought down.
Exactly, Dan. There's so much here, and Charles is just so soft on Harry and Meghan. And the thing is, it's clear that the lessons from Andrew have not been learned. The problem with Andrew, in part, was that he was just allowed to do whatever he wanted. There were no consequences, and the monarchy is letting Harry and Meghan do the same thing now. It's like you had decades to see where Andrew ended up, and now you're allowing history to repeat itself. You have clearly learned nothing, and I think that's a horrible image to show as a monarchy, is that you're not learning from your mistakes. We still have no answers as to how a situation like Andrew will be prevented. Again, we need to have a change in letters patent or what have you to ensure that titles can be stripped.
But it's never going to happen under Charles, Brittany. We now know
it
that.
Won't.
It's never going to happen under Charles. So all of this gets pushed to William. Can we just talk? I mean, let's look at Harry at this Go Yoga, right? The guy is literally, I believe, completely delusional now, Brittany, because he thought this photo op and then giving quite an arrogant interview, I thought, to Joe Marler, where he says, oh yeah, I'm Harry, Duke of Sussex. You know, he's really claiming that royal title. But actually, Brittany, I thought the optics for Harry were just awful, really, because he looks a fool now. He looks a fool. It's like, how on earth can you one day be talking about a highly respected judge working for your king, you know, potentially a future Supreme Court judge of the United Kingdom, how one day you can be describing him as being responsible for a whitewash, and then the next day doing goat yoga, prowling around embarrassingly with Alison Hammond on woke ITV, calling yourself the Duke of Sussex in quite, I thought, a rude manner to Joe Marler, although I know Harry will say, well, that's just my sense of humour. How can you go from one to the other and expect people to take you seriously? It's like, Harry, you're a balding 42-year-old man. This shtick ain't working for you anymore.
It's definitely not working for him, Dan, except for a small minority of people. But I mean, the big message here is Harry has no job. This is a 42-year-old unemployed man. He has no job. He's kind of, again, trying to, and if you did this in the normal sphere, in the normal world, if you had quit your job and then are going and pantomiming it somewhere else, you would be considered crazy and unhinged. And so Harry pantomiming being a working royal again just shows a complete lack of self-awareness, a complete and utter delusion. I am shocked that any business or charity wants to associate with him, because this is not a mentally healthy man. Despite his proclamations to the contrary, I think all the whatever he's taken to sort of the hallucinogenics have really messed with his brain, that he's taken probably to help him with his mental issues, have made them all worse. And so he is just this unemployed, in my personal opinion, loser who's just constantly trying to recapture what he had and not accepting his new life and trying to have a new job. I mean, he did it for a half a second, realized it was hard because, the real world is hard. And it's like, you know what? I'll just go back to this thing where I can do a little bit and look like I'm having fun and not really do anything else. Because Harry, it's just for show. This is just a facade. There's nothing underneath there. There's nothing of depth to this man, and he's just going around and going to anybody who will give him a paycheck, basically.
Brittany, we did get some insight from the Sunday Times and their royal editor, Roy Anika, a senior member of the Royal Rota, in terms of how the palace really felt about Prince Harry's actions earlier in the week. She wrote, those close to Harry said the family's return was not how he wanted it. Diddums. If extra security had been in place, he wanted the children involved in some public events. So again, no intention of actually keeping their faces hidden if he got what he wanted. Harry will return to the UK in September, and with one family reunion under his belt, another in the autumn has not been ruled out by either side. Every journey of 1,000 miles begins with one footstep, noted a royal source. On Saturday, friends of Harry said he was buoyed, really happy and really energised. But as a friend of the King said of the meeting, he will never shut the door on the possibility of spending time with his family because despite all the trouble, blood is blood. Sources close to the King feared that if Harry had stayed at Buckingham Palace, this is after the court ruling, he would have had his Evita moment on royal turf. Harry's blistering statement issued after the court judgment described it as a complete and obvious whitewash. There were jaws on the floor with a statement attacking not just a High Court judge, but the entire judicial system that acts in the King's name. There is profound upset constitutionally about that attack. Okay, why on earth then did the King meet him days later? And Roy Anika goes on to write, Charles's team knew that the road towards Friday's family reunion would be rocky. Helmet on, he looked ready for battle on Monday morning as he strapped into a Challenger 2 at the Tank Museum in Dorset. When it comes to the Sussexes and the palace, where there is existential mistrust about Harry and Meghan's motives, planning a family meeting is never simple. For much of last week, courtiers were wargaming any potential fallout from a meeting, including if Harry was to come out and claim that Charles sympathised with his case against the media. Would it create peace in our time or discord and constitutional controversy, a royal aide said. We are always trying to think about what is best, not just for grandfather, but for a sovereign and a head of state. Those close to Charles said all of this weighed on his mind before seeing the Sussexes on Friday, but a friend of the prince's scoffed at the idea that Harry's excoriating statement would have any lasting impact on the bond between father and son. Is any of that actually going to make a difference to their personal relationship? I don't think so, they said. Harry is very principled in what he stands for, and he's just going about his life in the way that he said he would. And what of the Queen's presence at Highgrove on Friday? Lots of people were surprised by that. Camilla rarely stays there, preferring to spend weekends at her private home in Wiltshire. When Harry flew to the UK, Camilla was in the room, but she left them to it last September when Harry saw his father for a 50-minute chat over tea. There is no love lost between Harry and Camilla. That much we very much know. But Roy Anika says she's a canny operator, fiercely loyal to Charles. Whatever her views of her stepson, she wanted to support her husband for an emotionally loaded meeting and to witness what was and was not said. Oh, to have been a fly on the hydrangeas, a friend said. Brittany, that is an interesting take on Camilla turning up, which did surprise a lot of people. But remember, I have reported in the past, Brittany, and this dates right back to really 2021. Charles and William vowed they would never be alone with Harry. They just couldn't risk being alone with Harry, because what if he came out and said something that was constitutionally significant? So I'm actually going to give Camilla a pass here. and say that it's understandable that she would want to be there so that if Harry does make an outrageous allegation in the months or years to come, the royal family could say, well, our recollections vary, and remember, Charles and Camilla were both there.
Yes, this is incredibly important. We know that nobody really wants to be alone with Harry because they don't know what he'll say. He's a loose cannon. But I think the big thing here in when it comes to Harry's visit and this visit in particular with Charles is that again, we're getting mixed messages from the palace because yes, of course, there's this personal dynamic here and this family dynamic, and everybody understands that, and everybody understands maybe to a certain extent the desire to rebuild the relationship. But what about the monarchy itself, the institution, the 1,000-year-old institution Charles is supposed to represent? I feel like that is sort of remains unclear here. Where does Harry stand? Where does Charles see Harry standing? Is Charles interested in allowing Harry to come back in? Is Charles interested in allowing Harry and Meghan to speak for him in some ways? I feel like that remains incredibly unclear at this point. And I think that's a really big danger for the monarchy because Harry and Meghan, again, can say in some ways, whatever they want and can continue to act as if they are still working members of the royal family when they are not, because Harry has said some constitutionally and diplomatically charged statements over even just the last couple of months that could potentially put the monarchy in a tricky situation. So he's continuing to act like a rogue royal. Again, Charles didn't get a huge level of concessions from them for this visit. And so this will embolden Harry and Meghan's worst tendencies. And I think the worst is going to be yet to come from them.
Brittany, we saw the most perfect illustration of what real royalty is over the weekend. And actually, I think William and Catherine won the optics war because Harry just looked like a fool without his wife or his children, whereas William and Catherine looked exactly like the royals we want to see, right? Including a lovely PDA at the polo.
Yes, they are very, very classy and elegant, Catherine and William, and they are examples of what royals are, which is it's different than celebrity. They act in a different way, and the danger always with Harry and Meghan is that they're trying to act like celebrities when they do technically have royal titles, and then people kind of drag the rest of the monarchy down to the celebrity D-list level. But Catherine and William just absolutely shined this weekend with them and their children, and I think they are obviously the future of the monarchy. It is Catherine and William. And unfortunately, they have to deal with this Harry and Meghan freak show. It does sort of drive some of the attention away from them. But Catherine and William, of course, come out on top just in the class game alone. Even if Harry and Meghan steal some headlines, Catherine and William are still a class act. They don't change. They don't try to get down to Harry and Meghan's level. They just continue to do what real royals do and showing everybody how it's done.
And then we had Wimbledon, and we know this is a huge event for Catherine and the family. But what was remarkable is that she received the most spectacular standing O, both on her own on Saturday, then, of course, with the family on Sunday. Have a look at this. On Saturday, there was this great moment as well where, and it's happened a couple of times in the past, and she deals with it very well, but in the silence of centre court, someone yells out, "We love you, Kate!" Look at this. It also looks like, Brittany, George and Charlotte may have a new tennis coach, Arthur Ferry. He is the British #1 who had this spectacular run to the Wimbledon semi-finals. And there was a beautiful moment, actually, where there was this interaction between Catherine and Arthur. You can also hear William at certain points during this video. He's speaking to the ball girls who are just down the line. But it's really lovely, Brittany, because you can see just how nervous George and Charlotte still are as they take these tentative steps into public life. But I think it's really lovely to actually watch the whole dialogue between them all.
Nice to meet you. Hello. Very nice to see you. Very well. Thank you. Yes, this is for you. Happy birthday. This is George. George, Arthur, and Charlotte.
You're running around with the umbrellas as well.
Yeah.
Very good job. Keep it tight. Yeah, well, I know it's as many days.
Fantastic. Awesome. Yeah. And great you got the chance to play on the show called Celebrity.
Really the first time.
How is the pressure?
Really special.
Really sort of feel for everyone. It's sort of, first time being out there.
Yeah, a little nervous, definitely. But once I was out there, it was fine. I got some time to relax and play tennis. Yeah, it was good.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I hear your children play tennis as well. When is it?
Yeah, they play a little bit exactly. And you enjoy it.
Yeah, it's great. You guys want to hit some balls every time?
Thank you.
That'd be great.
Do you get some downtime now? Have you got
Yeah. Next week's going to be nice. Just going to go on holiday. Very hot.
There's been no break. Usually
Yeah.
you get some bit
I
of
know.
a break. With
Only like the sixth time ever, I think. So yeah, you've come a lot this fortnight? Or?
Yeah, I kind of. Yeah, I was about to come last week to see something else. So I couldn't play.
Yeah.
See, so kind of saw the spirit and the environment.
Brittany, it's just lovely, isn't it? The whole event was lovely, and the fact that it culminated on the Sunday with her taking Charlotte and George felt very special.
It really did, Dan. It's always wonderful to see the children. I think Catherine also looked absolutely smashing and just incredibly elegant. And it's just so great to see the kids when they do public facing events. It's just so fun to see them sort of grow up and become more mature and more comfortable in the roles that they will play. And obviously, Catherine and William are spectacular ambassadors for the British monarchy. They are the ones that keep the whole thing steady, really, in so many ways, with the chaos surrounding so much of the British monarchy at this point. They are the steady ship, and I think they will do a fantastic job for the British monarchy in the future. They're teaching their kids how important this work is. And I just think that tennis is such a close sport to Catherine's heart that I think they so enjoy coming out and enjoying the Wimbledon as a family. And hopefully we'll get to see Prince Louis there next year.
Yeah, exactly. He may have been a little bit too bored for it this year. You know, it's a lot to sit through. It's a long game. It was hot. But yes, I would love to see Louis there for the entertainment. Look, Brittany, we've got to talk about William's anger, because this is a real betrayal by King Charles. We can't skirt around that fact. I know some people don't want to believe it, but you know how long I have reported on these tensions between William and the King, and they have just kicked off after this meeting at the weekend.